Welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast, and as always, good people, I am in airplane mode. And now a man whose daughter will have something in common with millions of Trump supporters next year. She's gonna sleep in a car. A man who needs no introduction. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Pocket Locker?
I'm all right, man. I've been better. I've been worse, as they say. It's one of those genuine times. It's just a lot going on. Let me see what's going on. I'm trying to get the chat and everything here to look a little bit more reasonable. Okay, here we go. Captive Desk, what's up, Dave? PC is in the house. Sarah is here. Good to see y'all. Thanks for coming through early and helping us get started. Yeah, man. So it's crazy. Like so what we talking about today is I told my family Christianity is an evil lie.
Hold on a second.
Pause for suspense.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Hey, holy shit. So more specifically,
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How'd they take it?
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
So, I mean, to kind of set it up, to be more specific, like, I did not go home for Christmas proper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't go home Christmas Eve or go home for Christmas Day. I, stayed here and told my mom, you can celebrate Christmas with my grandparents, and I'll come the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had told some people during, I called in to the Kentucky Atheist channel during Purple Rhymes with Orange's sort of holiday marathon stream. Yeah. And I talked to him and a couple people about how, this is what was going on, that I felt like I couldn't go home for Christmas because I went home for Thanksgiving and I felt traumatized by what I experienced at Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah. Just there's a lot of religious propaganda in the house.
Okay.
And I don't really appreciate it, especially because I feel like my family knows the way I am.
Yeah, you're outspoken atheist.
And to be honest with you, to add a little bit of a layer that I didn't even mention then that I'm kind of processing now, it feels like trying to regain lost footing, because I do feel there was a time where my mom was like at least sensitive and would decorate her home in a way that was like, I want my son to feel welcome here. But now I feel like there was a deliberate effort to really make it like, no, I'm gonna decorate my home the way I want to, and he should accept that this is my home and this is my party. We can do what we want, right?
Cry if I want to.
Yeah. Instead of being like, but what kind of parent does that? You see what I'm saying? And there's a lot of little stuff, y'all, that we might get into that. I don't think they're good people, to keep it real. Like I really do think there's so much passive aggressive, toxic bullshit that like their heads are just so far up their asses at this point. There's no hope for them. And it's crazy because it's a lot of things that I've been talking about on the channel and talking about where I make different appearances and things. And then they're really playing out in my life in a way that feels prophetic in like the worst way possible, because it's like it's almost like I'm understating things on the channel. I'm understating people think I'm so extreme in my position and I take such a hard stance. And now I'm feeling like, y'all, if y'all knew what was really going on, y'all would know I've been soft on these people. I've been giving these people a pass. I've been slacking because that's a perfect example. Like, I go from noticing you make sure there's nothing in this home that would offend me, because I don't say she just moved, but she moved during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So she had a home in Ohio. She moved during the pandemic to New Jersey, built a new home. So how we go from when I go to your house in Ohio, you made sure there's nothing that would offend me, to when I go visit your home in New Jersey, there was no thought or consideration to that given.
If I may, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Could this have something to do with her husband, like his vision of Christmas, or?
No, because it wasn't even Chris. It wasn't. I'll tell you what part of it is. Part of it. I mean, part of it's the husband, in the sense that the husband is just another super Christian. But nah, he's. I hate to say, he's too beta to really matter much. He's a sidekick. He's a sidekick on a good day.
I can hear Jesse Lee Peterson, beta male.
No, I think to be honest with you, I think he's a good man. Yes. I think he's a good man. But what I'm getting at is he's not going to lead or challenge her or anything. You know, she's the lead dog. He's the helper.
Okay, so he wants her to be happy.
Yeah.
Okay,
but what I do think part of it is they built that house to live with my grandparents. You know, my grandparents were at the time. You know, my grandparents are like ministers and they're super religious too. So part of it is that suite where guests stay or whatever was designed for my grandparents, and she still has it set up for them. But they're in a nursing home now.
Nursing home, yeah.
Yeah. So again, my mother's too conscientious to not think through these things. I know y'all think I'm sounding unreasonable, but you know how you know your family. My mother never doesn't think through these things. My whole life, my mother always thinks through, where am I going to stay when I come? Is everything set up? What's it going to look like? How's it decorated? She's always thought about these things, even down to stuff like she makes sure there aren't any pictures with my ex-girlfriends up if she's meeting a girlfriend. It's little practical stuff that make you have to think through these things.
Of ex-girlfriends?
Yeah, because there's like, you know, family things where maybe I had an ex and she likes that picture or she likes it, but she knows now, you got it. Yeah, I have a new girlfriend. She can't be, you could have these pictures of my exes around. But yeah, this is just a thing, right? And it did bother me on Thanksgiving because, again, it's like I explained on Joe's channel, I'm recovering from religious trauma.
Yeah.
And so what may sound reasonable, unreasonable to other people, I can't really deal with right now. Like, I'm literally trying to be okay. And I'm learning that, like, I'm not okay with certain things. And it's different, too, when it's your family, because that's the place where you're supposed to feel some sort of, like, integration and peace and wholeness. Like, if my relationship with the family is toxic, you shouldn't just not spend time with your family. But to me, it's not okay for me to feel traumatized when I'm around my family and not say anything. I can't really blame them if I don't say. I could blame them. I could be upset about these things, but I have to at least put it out there so that they have a chance to understand, I should say. And then part of it was the prayer. Like, when they pray over the food and everything, I literally just was shook. Like, oh, they're worshiping the monster. Like, they're bowing their head to the monster. Like, it's really important to this family that we thank the monster for our food. And it just got to a point where it's like, I can't keep up this act. I can't keep up pretending. Again, shout out to Bar, Black Atheist Ranch. I should definitely subscribe. but really feeling that inspiration, like this is evil. This is evil. And I can't watch my family do something that's evil and just act like it's okay or it's cute, especially because my family is the source of my religious trauma. So as I'm trying to heal, is like every time I pop in to catch up with y'all, I'm re-traumatized. And I put it all out there for y'all, and y'all don't even care. Y'all don't respond. Y'all don't change nothing up. It doesn't move you or motivate you in any meaningful way. So I just felt like I was done with the gaslighting. So I felt like, in a sense, and this is gonna sound weird, but I felt like in a sense I was making a compromise. Like I really want to destroy Christmas because I really want to come tell you, oh, this is nonsense and Jesus is not the reason for the season, and I really want to go in. And so I decided not to. Instead, I decided like, go ahead, y'all can have Christmas without me. That way I feel like I'm letting them have space to do what they want to do. Feeling like, I don't know, that's why you want to do so badly. But okay, but that's what you want to do. So like, go ahead and do that. And then I'll come the next day and explain why I didn't come, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's setting the stage. So I'm so it's not just me telling them out of nowhere that I think the religion is an evil lie. It's me kind of setting the stage with, I'm going to tell you why I didn't come here for Christmas. And then I was just feeling a lot of, and I'm trying to set the stage just so people have a little bit more context, also, compared to whatever they might be dealing with. I was definitely feeling a ton of anxiety on the way there. Like I remember being in the car at one point, literally crying because I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. It's not gonna go well, but I've genuinely been backed into a corner where it's like I felt like as hard as this is for me to do, I know I have to. So I was just scared. I was just scared, and I knew that I didn't have really answers in terms of like how to do it or what to say or whatever. It's like I have been thinking about it so much, and I come up with a million game plans, and I was just realizing that like all that was probably going to go out the window once I actually started talking, and that I really was dealing with a lot of unknown, and that I was just going to have to like really, really say it, really say what was on my mind. So I'm not going to pretend I wasn't shook. Like I was like deeply like apprehensive about what was going to go on. So I got there, I ate dinner, and then I asked them to kind of sit around the table with me so I could talk to them. I decided I wanted to talk to her with her husband. And it was really interested. Like so I started by saying like, I want to explain why I didn't come home for Christmas, and I started explaining it like I came home for Thanksgiving and I was really horrified by what I experienced. And I just went in and I was like, I don't know how else to tell you this. I started by telling them like, I know this is going to be really difficult for y'all, but I need you to do your best to remember this is really difficult for me too.
That's a good
and
preface.
I think that helped. Yeah. But I just went in. I just told them like Christianity is an evil lie, and I don't know how you can expect me to just like. ignore that or just like be okay. And I really that's why I was laughing at this text you sent me, yo. So my one black friend sent me a text. Do you mind if I read it?
Please do. Go right ahead.
He said in response to somebody, did you even read what you wrote is ridiculous? A God sent his kid so his kid could die for us instead of just forgiving us. He didn't have to.
Pocket Locker, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go
Can
ahead.
you read? Can you, just for further context, can you read what the?
Oh, I can see the text before. Okay, it says, nobody. God sent his only son, identical in divine nature, to die for you and me. You sound silly. Yeah, so he kind of came at you.
I rarely will look. I have a lot of clever things that I can say in almost any situation. And I tend to match the energy that I am given when someone is speaking in a way that isn't remotely insulting. But if they want to be insulting, I came to F and play.
Right.
And I am the wrong person to start that sort of thing with, because I can handle my own. So please.
Yeah, and so he said, did you even read what you wrote? It is ridiculous that God sent his kid so his kid could die for us instead of just forgiving us. He didn't have to have his son tortured and brutally murdered, but he felt like it was a good idea. That is Trump levels of not thinking the obvious through. Yeah. So believe it or not, like I kind of went there, and it was one of like the first things I brought up was just that the fundamental story itself was immoral. And I did mention that, like God murders everything in the planet. Like I mentioned essentially the Genesis story, and that he like just literally murders everything. And then I was talking about, but then even the story about him sacrificing his son, that was wrong because it was like substitutionary atonement, and God just should have forgiven us. And I literally explained that is what forgiveness means. I remember there was like a vase on the table, and I was like, if you have a guest over and they accidentally they apologize and say, I'm really, really sorry, I didn't mean to break your vase, that means you're bearing the cost. You forgiving them is not going to put the vase back together or give you back the money you spent on it. You have to still bear the cost of the broken vase. That is what it means to forgive them for it. And like, so I used that kind of as an example. I talked about how we fight against Christians for all of the rights that we fought for, like that the Bible is the reason people think women are not equal to men, and that we had to fight against Christians to get women their rights, and that Christians are still trying to take women's rights from them, and we have to fight against Christians for LGBTQ rights. And I even called them out because I have a gay cousin, like a lesbian cousin technically, and I was like, if like she was watching you in church, like she wouldn't see y'all protesting the hateful things that your pastor says. She would see you sitting there going along with it.
That's pretty powerful. It's a powerful thing to say.
Yeah. And I talked about how the Bible says that if a woman is raped by a man, that she has to marry him, and that he has to pay the father because it's a property crime and the woman is seen as property. And that's like, if you break it, you bought it. So I brought that up. I talked about how it has an entire handbook and manual on slavery, and how there was a slave ship named Jesus, and how they lied. I explained like what apologists are, because I kept using that term. I say like we deal with apologists all the time, and they're all liars. And she asked me what that was, and I named some that she knew and some books that she's read, and I was like, yeah, they're all professional liars. Like I felt like a slightly toned down version of a lot of the things I say on the show. Yeah. But I really did like go off. I talked about how I know that they do it to be good and that they think they're being good people, and tried to show some understanding of that.
Yeah.
But it's like at the end of the day, I mentioned what I always say: there's no honest way to defend something that isn't true, and you really have to look at the evil. Like, it's not this innocuous myth or just some story. Like, these people are asking us to dedicate our lives to this. You guys have made it your whole personality. And I talked about, like, you see people wearing these crosses around their neck and they act like it's cute. You're wearing a Roman torture device around your neck. Like,
yeah.
Come on, like, we have to stop this. And then I even went in about how it's so racist and that it was used to justify slavery, but how they wouldn't even give the slaves the real Bible. Like, they wouldn't give them any of the parts that would suggest that freedom was important or encourage them to revolt. So they literally, I was like, they've never taken Black Christians seriously. They literally gave us like a slave Bible, like, and then I explained how, it's still just used for so much white supremacy, and how white Christians don't even take Black expressions of faith seriously. Like, they think I talked about like high Christology and how they think that, like, they're in the study. I said they think they have the smart white man version of Christianity where they figured out that Moses and Abraham weren't real people, and they're into all of this systematic theology and stuff, and they look at Black people just laying on hands and speaking in tongues and running around shouting in the church and all of this stuff. And I talked about how they don't even see that as like real Christianity. And then but I also went after the faith healers and the Black church, and I was talking about, that we were just lucky that my grandparents, they'll pray for stuff, but they'll also go see their doctors. But how many people won't do both or can't do both, and they'll only choose Jesus? And how many people, send their life savings away to some faith healer in return for some prayer clause and stuff like this? Like, I went in, y'all. Like, I said, like I told him, I said, I got a lot to get off my chest, and to their credit, they sat there and they really listened to all of it.
That's good.
In a way that I could tell they really heard it and were kind of thinking about the things that I was saying as I was saying them. And it was kind of, it was a complicated interaction. I could say that. To be honest, it felt really good in a sense to get things off of my chest. And it felt like this is who I am. This is the person I am. I can't just, that's what was happening with me. I felt like I didn't even recognize myself. And I felt like, because I was being so inconsistent, y'all. It's like I was advocating that we really fight against the harmful impact of religion, but then I was tolerating it in my own family. And yes, they knew I was a non-believer and that I didn't agree with them things, but I was still keep letting everything slide. And this felt like, no, like, now I can hold my head high because I've been telling people, like, I'm not okay with this. And I've been allowing myself to be personally traumatized by this, and I'm not even exercising proper self-care because I keep letting everybody else tell me why I should be okay with the lies I was told and the number that this church did on me instead of advocating and supporting me. Like, no, I shouldn't have gone through those things. And I shouldn't be in a family of people who won't acknowledge what they did wrong and change. And I was like, and I explained to them that, like, the problem is y'all keep doing it, right? The problem isn't that you don't understand how I feel. The problem is that you keep doing it, that, like, nothing will make you leave. Like, that's what's crazy. And so it did feel really good to tell them, but I'm gonna tell you what didn't feel good. They caught me with the okey doke, man, because literally as soon as the conversation was over, like, her husband was the first to speak, but they both spoke, and basically they took the same tact, which was that they didn't really have a lot to say, because of course there's nothing to say. I'm not BSing. Everything I said I was 100,000% correct about. But they framed it all as like, we still accept you. We still love you. Yeah, we might disagree with some of the things you said. And of course, I'm not trying to debate them on this. I just let that go. But like, there was nothing I said to disagree with. And I realized that this is how poisonous Christians are. Like, when you really hit them with with how nasty their shit is, their tactic is, well, I still accept you. You know, why can't you just accept us the same way? I just told you your shit is evil. So it was really, I didn't like that. Like, I felt like they sidestepped the moment in that regard.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
In fairness to them, you have to give them time to process what you said. Right?
Yeah.
You cited examples from the Bible, which is the proper thing to do, because you can't just say it and not have anything to back it up. You did back it up. You might not have said this chapter and this verse, but if they've been Christian for any amount of time, there's probably a few things they can sort of figure out where the Bible says this or that. And they have to think about that. Just as you and I in our audience, we had to process those things too.
Yeah.
When we tell somebody that the God of the Bible is genocidal, and yet they think the same God has been waking them up for 64 years and providing them with blessings for 64 years, helping them feed their family, manage different, milestones that are hard, strife and all this stuff, help them pay their mortgage, and you just said he's genocidal maniac. It's tough for them to think about that, because what they have been taught to say and believe is that God is good. Thank you. I heard you being very talkative, by the way. Anyway, I don't know if she's going to say much here, but she sure was saying it a moment ago. But, that's been their life. And now you're upsetting them by telling them a truth that they didn't want to face or couldn't face by basically calling God on his crap. Right. You probably went on to say, like, you guys got to know this isn't real, right? Because people don't want to think they're stupid about believing in their particular God. I don't care if they're a Muslim or Hindu or Christian or some tribe from here in the Americas. They don't want to think what they believe is silly or stupid. But you could say something, Pocket Locker, and you no doubt did, stating things very plainly that are abhorrent, like a woman having to marry her rapist.
Yeah.
How does that feel to hear? And as I have stated I think I said this when the Black Free Thinkers program that you and Maya did, they don't want to look at God that way. That my God would never do that. The God I believe in would never do that. And it's because what they have done in their minds is they have fixed what is broken about their God. Well, the Bible tells them, no, that's what Jesus and God do for you. They fix what is broken in you. Your comments to your mom and her husband are breaking that paradigm. They're the kind of things that break that paradigm for people, and people aren't ready for that. You know, so
Yeah, and that's why I was telling
go
them,
ahead.
like, you have to think about this. Because I honestly, the reason the sidestep bothers me is because it sounds, they almost make it, they make it sound like that's exactly what they're not going to do, right? Like, I that was my main. Oh, $2 from the Afro Atheist. Hey Esther, so good to see you. Wait, 2 GBP. I think that's
British
Great
pounds,
Britain.
great British pounds.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm new to the game. I don't know currencies. Peer character putting his hands in front of his mouth while. Oh, that's a emoji. Thank you so much, Esther. Also, Esther, I got to reach out so we can have you on Black Free Thinkers on Skeptic Haven. We probably was so excited to learn more about your channel, but so good to see you. And your channel's been awesome. I've been watching your videos. Esther's just been killing it lately. So please subscribe to the Afro Atheist. Thank you so much for coming through. Yeah, so that's my thing. Is I left them really, really like, I need you to think about these things. I need you to take time to think about these things and look into these things, because that did sting a bit, and it felt a little bit like I said, it felt like them sidestepping the moment. Like, this isn't really about you accepting me as much as it as you accepting the challenges to your beliefs. Also, what was interesting was they tried to put a ton of it on the church, which is, there are some things about the trends I see in Christianity that are very alarming, and this is one of them. It was very much, well, we realized the problem with the church, problems with the church, especially the Black church, and so we move a bit differently now with regard to church. So basically, like, they're what I call now couch Christians. They've seen, I think they saw problems with their church, especially because they were going to a pretty much all white evangelical mega millionaire church. Like I've mentioned on the channel, one of them churches with a fucking orchestra and millions of dollars of AV equipment and valet parking and a whole campus, and that looks like a luxury car super dealership. Like, that's one of them type of churches. Churches where ain't a lot of folk that actually look like us, which is another problem in my family, is like the anti-Blackness that comes with all of it, that they just swallow whole cloth. But they basically realized a lot of them people were like Trump supporters, and that really bugged them, especially during the pandemic. And so they started, watching church from home. And I think they just have never gone back to physically going to church. But I actually think this is a huge problem with Christians. Okay, let me just say this. It's not just Christians. This is a huge problem with people of faith. People have this really strong habit of realizing there's a problem with extremism, there's a problem with fundamentalism, there's a problem with the church, there's a problem with the institution, there's a problem with the organization. And so they step away from that, but then they stay personally invested in the religious ideology.
Right.
And it's crazy, because then you're in a space now where there's no accountability for anything. because everything is just, well, we don't believe that part of the scripture, or we don't believe that, or we're loving, and you just clean it up. Yeah. And there's no accountability for the fact that what you're still claiming your personal identity and your personal relationship and all of this stuff is based on comes from these churches and these institutions, and still is not true and still is evil. So it was like they took everything that I was saying, and it was sort of like yeah, that's true, and yeah, we recognize that's a problem with the church, but it's like, nah. It's a problem with your religious problem, with your beliefs, right? And I kept having to like come back to that and like get them to realize that like you can't just pawn this off on the church. And then also explaining that because y'all are this way, you're perpetuating it generationally throughout the family, and you're responsible for that. Like, I was explaining to her that like there's nobody in my family that knows enough and cares enough about them that could even challenge them or would. And I used the example of another thing that bothered me for Thanksgiving was I came home and two of my cousins said that they didn't vote. We were on like a family FaceTime or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you know, these two cousins of mine, they're black women, obviously, and I was really upset. And so was my grandfather. And basically, they kind of used Jesus as an excuse. Like, they really talked about, oh, she was too scripted. She sounds too much like a normal politician. You know, so I had to have the politics as the job description conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And both of them use teleprompters. Trump used to teleprompter her religiously.
Yeah. So then they went to Jesus, though. They were like, well, I'm putting my faith in Jesus for the next 4 years, and I'm Jesus, I trust in Jesus, not the politicians or whatever. And
they are screwed.
And I could tell, sorry, that my grandfather was disappointed. I said this to my mom. I said that was the one moment I could tell my grandfather did not want to hear Jesus from his grandchildren, and that even he in that moment was really upset and disappointed. And then I said, but that is what we did to this family. Like, we have to understand that this is what we said is the family message. Put all your faith in Jesus, 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 Jesus. Nothing matters but Jesus. You can't then be shocked and surprised when someone throws out, well, I lean on Jesus instead of, the real shit, because this is who we've said we are, and this is who we said we want to be. And I was like, and they're already having, their kids coming of age with more Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Matter of fact, to keep it real, like the next day we went out to this arcade spot with my cousin, and his daughter had on her brand new Essentials Fear of God brand. This new brand, you probably been seeing it. Yeah. So that's what that was one of her Christmas presents. So again, it's like, we just keep it going, and it's not true. So like, and I explained even like evolution. I explained that like, y'all don't even believe my science, and that these people attack my work, that they attack my research, and that they lie about our work, and I explained that like, we were not created. Like, y'all are lying. Like, we were not created. And I said in no uncertain terms, I said the literal definition of God is that he is the creator. And I was like, we know for a fact that we were not created. Y'all keep acting like this is some idea. I said, this is the most well-supported theory in the history of science, and you deny it. And then I said, and then you act like you're proud of me. You say you're proud that I got a PhD and you're proud of everything I accomplished academically, but you literally don't believe the science I do. You don't believe it. You believe what these other fools is out here saying, that I might as well be wasting my time, that this is a joke, that it's a conspiracy. Like, they have a conspiracy theory against us. And so I had to, do you know how frustrating it is to have to explain to your mother, yeah, you celebrate what I accomplished, but you don't even think my work is real. Like, and then people don't, and then people act like they don't understand how Jay, you're saying this is traumatic for you. You're saying this hurts. You're saying this makes you like, yeah. I explained it like sometimes I said, Mom, sometimes this makes me suicidal.
Whoa.
And I said I explained it. I said, Mom, I have to actually like check my sanity with my friends. Some people in Gather can tell you. I have to go, y'all, it's wrong to lie, right? Telling lies is wrong, right? It's wrong to lie. Like, lies are bad, right, y'all? And they got to be like, yeah, Jay, you're not going crazy. It's not just you. Yeah, it's bad. It's wrong to kill people. It's wrong to kill everything, right? And I explained to them, like, y'all think this shit. My mom said to me before we started talking, she said, oh, a lot of times I have to turn off the news. Like, I don't even like to watch, movies with too much gore, too much violence in it, because it's too many bad things, on the news. And sometimes I have to turn the news off. So I said, well, think about what's going on in the news right now. It's real genocide going on in the world. We really have a group of people that like, yeah, our God said their land is ours. And they really trying to wipe them people off the map. Like, it is an actual genocide. It is really happening right now. He had to probably say what he could hear is a real genocide happening right now in real time. And again, y'all are worshiping a God who in your Bible commands genocide. And I even used the example of Saul or whatever it was. I said, literally, God commands him to wipe everybody out. And he saves the king and some precious livestock and a couple of shiny pieces for himself. And God says, I regret making him king because he did not kill every living thing. That is evil. So, like, what is the point in really having courage and really staying in school and getting an education and becoming a scientist when you realize the world just doesn't give a shit and would really rather you keep your hard-won truths to yourself? And what does it mean when, like, literally people don't care about evil and they worship evil? I hate to say it, but yeah, like, living with y'all is not really that exciting. Like, it's not really that great of a proposition. And sometimes it feels like a motherfucking waste of motherfucking time, energy, and resources. I'm about to die up in this motherfucker at some day anyway. Sometimes you be looking like, how much of a difference can I really make between now and then? Not much. All right, cool. Let's check about this bitch. I'm not saying that's how I am right now. I wouldn't be telling y'all this on air if I was really feeling that way right now. Just so you can keep it 100. But I'm just telling y'all the anxiety and the frustration literally becomes existential at times, because you just feel like you're going insane, like padded cell insane, because everyone is just so comfortable with lies, so comfortable worshiping evil, so comfortable like ignoring a real genocide happening in real time, but worshiping a God who commands genocide. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like the reason we're ignoring this genocide over here is because low key, y'all are kind of just pro-genocide. Y'all are kind of just like, if God commands a genocide, then it's a good genocide. And I think maybe y'all actually do believe that this is a genocide that God commanded, because you sure as fuck act like it. So it's just, man, it's hard. And again, to put all that out in front of people and for them to come back with, well, we still accept you and we think you're okay. It's like, yeah, it was a time. It was a time. It is a time. Yeah, PC Secular Therapy Project. I'm gonna have to hit them up actually. But yeah, y'all, anybody else too, man. If you're struggling out there, definitely check out the Secular Therapy Project. But also, y'all, let me tell you something. That's a part of why I did this, and I hope y'all take this sincerely. And this is no shade to therapy. I've been in lots of counseling. I'm a bipolar. I get counseling when I get my medication. I see my shrink on a regular basis. Yeah, and so go therapy. But part of the therapeutic process for me is realizing what you have to do in your real life, right? In other words, there's no amount of therapy that can, how do I say it? There's no amount of therapy that can make up for certain difficult things that you have to deal with in life, right? And for me, like I have, my family's cool about different things. I could skate by being low key, agreeing to disagree, just not bringing up religion, different things like that. But I don't do that. And part of it was I was really going through it. I was really having the trauma. And my family was the source of that trauma. There's really nothing a therapist can say or do to stop me from having that experience with my family. Right? They can give me some coping mechanisms. They can see if I need to adjust my medication. They can, we could talk about it. We could work through it. They could help me try to build resiliency. But ultimately, if anything is actually going to change with my family, we're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to talk about it. And we're going to have to try to find a way to work through it. That's no guarantee it's going to work. I'm not telling you that this is the start of my family deconverting. To be honest with you, it's probably exactly the opposite because their response is already double down Christian persecution. I can tell you that. So I'm not here to tell you that like it's a success story and it's definitely going to work. But you do feel like there are certain things in life, right? It's like a job. Like if you have a bad job, you go talk to your therapist till you blue in the face about everything that's wrong with work, and your therapist can help you do a different work-life balance and find better hobbies and help you focus on your relationships and the good things in your life and all that, right? But eventually, if you want to improve your work situation, you're going to have to leave that place. You know what I'm saying? You got to go find another job, or you're going to have to address whatever it is, figure out how to promote better, figure out how to deal with your manager, figure out how to deal with the coworker that's making you hate your shift every day, whatever it is, right? So I just think sometimes, because I've seen my own family do this too, where they use therapy instead of dealing with something. No, I use therapy to help me deal with something, but eventually the rubber's gonna meet the road, and I'm gonna just have to buckle up and ride. And that's what this was. This was me being like, yeah, I could talk to my therapist about these things. I've been talking to many therapists about these things for a really long time. Yeah, there's just certain things the therapist can't do for me. I'm gonna have to deal with this. So that's where I was at, y'all. So yeah, exactly. Holy shit. Keeping it real is therapeutic. Exactly. That's such a great way to say it. It's crazy. As a kid, when I wanted to learn more of the Old Testament, I was given an abridged children's Bible that removed all the horrible genocides and shit. I was pissed when I found out they tried to hide it. That's crazy too. Like the way they tried to hide these things, and they know they're hiding it. It's another thing I tried to explain to my mom and her husband was that, like, all of these Christians, if evidence wasn't so important, they wouldn't keep pretending that they have it. And if it wasn't so important to be rational, they wouldn't keep acting like they have good arguments for this stuff. And so at some level, there's an awareness that I think they don't want to admit to. I also talked about the outsider test of faith. I talked about, how there's claims of in Islam and things like that, the one I usually go to is, Muhammad flying up to the moon and splitting the moon or whatever, and explaining that y'all would never believe these claims just because it says it in a book. If you would, then you'd be a Muslim, but you're not. And given the nature of that story, the only thing that would help you accept that is proof that it happened. Like, it should be documented otherwise in history. It should have been attested to externally. Y'all know the typical stuff. So yeah, I mean, I hit him with all the stuff, y'all. That's the other thing is I was trying to explain to him. I was like, look, I'm here for this. Like, I'm a resource. And I talked about y'all a lot. I kept bringing up, she was like, who is we? Who is this community you always talking about? Like, it's like, you should already know these things about me, but okay. But like I was explaining to her, like, we're prepared for this. This is the hard thing I got to put to y'all is like, for most of y'all are just like me. You're probably the only real serious educated atheist in the life of most of the people you love that are still believers. There might be plenty of other non-believers in their life, maybe some coworkers, maybe stuff like that, right? But nobody that cares enough to really sit them down and go there with them and try to help them understand. Hey, Robin. And so if that's true, then you're probably the best resource for them. And that's what I was trying to explain. Like, I'm a resource for people who are deconstructing, and we're really good at this. Like, we really are good at helping people understand what's wrong with religion, why it's not true and why it's evil, and how to work their way and think through these things. But people have to utilize that resource. They have to start on that road, and then we can help them. So I see it as intervening and like fighting for my family. And it's tough. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to, they're not going to hear what you have to say and then just be like, oh, all right, cool. I'm an atheist now. But hopefully you're sincerely putting that pebble in their shoe that challenges the cognitive dissonance and gets them to start thinking more deeply about these things. And no matter what happens, I think you're gonna feel better about living your authentic selves. So I still 10 out of 10 would highly recommend in terms of having these conversations with family, especially because and it's steps, y'all. Remember that, like, this, I'm not talking to you about step number 1 in the process. I'm actually probably talking to you about step number 27 in the process. You understand what I'm saying to y'all? Like, my family understanding that I had some challenges to the faith started years ago, probably like, more than a decade ago. And then my family understanding that I was an atheist happened a really long time ago. And I've tried to have conversations about the issues with the Christian faith with my mom before, and they turned into like knockdown, drag out fights. And that's happened years ago. You understand what I'm saying to you, y'all? So don't think that this is like step 1. But I do want to tell some of y'all this is an important step, especially just for us, y'all. Like, We have to fight for ourselves. We are not less valuable than these religious people. We may not find a place in the family as easily as they do. We may not find a place in society as easily as they do. These conversations may hurt or alienate some people. But at some level, that's not our fault. If you deal with religious trauma like I deal with religious trauma, you're a fucking victim of these cults. Congratulations. It sucks, but that's what it is. And you being honest about the fact that, like, yo, this shit, yeah, you don't understand. This shit is actually painful. Like, yeah, I'm actually suffering. Like, yeah, when somebody tells me prayer fixes everything and I see prayer fixes everything on the mug, I want to destroy that mug and curse out the person who put it in front of me. That's how I feel. I'm not being mean. I'm not being a jerk. I'm not trying to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm telling you how I feel and how I respond to things. When I see people bowing their head and thanking a monster for their food, I want to yell and scream at them. And to be honest, because this is my channel, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think people who believe this shit deserve to have great relationships with their family. It's funny, like, me and my mother had another very challenging conversation, which I'm gonna shift to, but I was waiting. I was trying to wait for my one black friend to be, present. But we had another challenging conversation where she was kind of like asking me to evaluate the type of child I've been, essentially like calling me out about the fact that they've alienated me, that I feel alienated from the family. And but trying to put it as like I'm not a good son because, I guess I don't visit or call as much as they'd like or do all the family shit. And I had to explain, I'm an amazing son because I'm here and I've continued to fight for our relationship, even though you're part of a group that hates me. And she got so upset about that. And this is what I said, like, even when I talk, see, it's funny because this was like the second time we talked about it, because I talked about it the day before when we had the conversation. I literally explained to her, and y'all have heard me say this on this channel. We know how Christians feel about LGBTQ people. They tell us all the time, and it's right there in the book. It says, for a man to lie with a man as he does with women is abomination, and surely they shall be put to death. So we know that is hate. And I explained to her that, like, y'all are like Trump supporters. You're no better than Trump supporters. Because number one, you believe what you want to believe. And when people try to tell you that what you believe is wrong and that what you're doing is evil, you just make excuses to keep doing it anyway. You're just like Trump supporters. You are absolutely no better. And on top of that, you are part of the same cult. Like, not the cult of Trump, but the actual cult that motivates most of them, which is Christianity. You are part of that cult. And so you may say you love your LGBTQ niece, but you also tell the people that hate her that they're right about God and they're right about the Bible and we really should live according to God. In other words, you're no help. And you can't actually make a full-throated condemnation of the people that are oppressing us because you are one of them.
Hey, Pocket Locker.
Yeah.
I know some of our other listeners are going to have this conversation. And I apologize. My daughter has an authority over me.
No, it's okay.
But I think we have to be careful when having these conversations because chances are your mom and her husband are sensitive people, right? And they're not necessarily going to be used to bold phrasing coming at them. They're the ones who are supposed to have all the bold answers, right? And they're supposed to make us think. But when it's going the other way, are you falling asleep? When it's going the other way, it can be quite tough for them. And I want to encourage, if you do this again, and you may need to, try to approach it Socratically, where you're asking them, how does that make you feel? Or how do you understand that? Or do you think that is the best course of action? Like, do you think it's the best idea for a woman to marry her rapist? And when they say, well, obviously not, but that was the time. Well, do you think that a God who's supposed to be infinite in his ability and wisdom, couldn't he have said something better, that that woman should be treated no differently, in fact, other than with greater understanding about what she needs in terms of mental health? Where's the instruction manual in the Bible for her mental health, her healing? Where's that at? It's not in there. Well, wouldn't an almighty God put it in there? Things of that nature that make them realize that they haven't necessarily thought it through. And you put the work on them, other than just feeling bad. You're a teacher. You want to stimulate their thought process.
I do. And I will say that I had some moments that I'll mention that I thought were good Socratic moments, but I'm going to counter warn people not to worry about it, because I think part of the problem is I'm advocating for self-advocacy. This is not about them. This is about me. And there are demands of them that are being made. And exactly, I'm sensitive. And I can't be asked at my most vulnerable to use certain tactics to be concerned about the feelings of a group of people that is oppressing me. Maybe other people can do that. Maybe other people have the bandwidth and capacity. But here's my bigger concern. My bigger concern is that people in our community, and it's not that I don't think anything you said is wrong or bad advice. It's all great advice. But the problem is, this is a community that I suspect, at least from my conversations and what other people tell me, suffers from analysis paralysis. We already think too much about these conversations. We already think too much about how to make them comfortable. We already think too much about which tactics works and which don't. And it's literally to the point that people won't have the conversations. So I want everybody to go have the conversation and just do it. And yeah, it is actually really great if you can do all the good things, if you can stay calm and be friendly, and like I tried not to curse and all of those things. But I suspect that for 90% of the audience, you will automatically do those things because you're talking to people you love and care about. You will automatically temper yourself, and at some point, you just got to say what you got to say. You just gotta let it. You just gotta get it off your chest. And I'm done with Christian main character syndrome. I'm just done with it. I get that. No, it's a tough call. It's not an easy call because they are the victims and they've been through a lot and they have been indoctrinated and the church has done a number on them too. But at some point, we cannot keep treating people with kid gloves, especially not the people who are supposed to raise us, the people that were supposed to teach us the difference between right and wrong, because we're actually not helping them. What we're doing is we're creating excuse structure for them, because that is a lot of what it is to them. They feel attacked, they feel challenged, and then they use that as an excuse to not hear you and not grow. And that's why it is helpful, because you can bypass some of that if you can make the conversation more agreeable. But it's just like I say about, being, when I was trying to be a dating coach. It is great to learn how to approach somebody. It'll change. Let me put it to you this way. It is a skill that will change your life. I used to tell people, it doesn't even make any sense, but growing social skills is so important to us that if you make like a young man confident that, let's say he's straight and he wants to learn how to meet young women, you make him confident that he can approach a woman he's never met before and start a conversation with her, you literally just changed his life. He now thinks he can start a business. He can become a rocket scientist. He can go back to med school. There's no reason on earth that learning some approaches to meet people at a shopping mall gives you confidence that you can take on the rest of the world, but it does. But for so many people, you will spend so much time learning how to approach people. Well, what do I do after I approach? Well, what do I do if they say this? Well, what do I do when they say that? Me? Well, what if they don't like me? What if there's a friend with them and the friend is trying to, what if? It's no good if you then now won't approach. Right? If you took a class or read a book on how to approach people, but it taught you so much information that now when you're actually out in the real world and you see somebody you like, you won't approach them because you're too busy trying to figure out what's the perfect approach from all of your knowledge. Then do you see what I'm saying? Like you didn't do the thing you did. Like it wasn't really worth it. You didn't get the benefit because and that's where so many of us are. We deconverted a long time ago. We're very comfortable in our own skin as atheists. The thing that really probably stresses most of us out is the interaction with family, friends, and loved ones who are still adamant about these things. And now we're at a place where we've listened to probably, I'm not even exaggerating in some cases, 200, 300 plus Christian versus atheist debates. You've listened to probably 20 hours plus of raw, hardcore academic scholarship material from Old Testament scholars, New Testament scholars, historians of Christianity, historians of ancient Israelites. Right? Every time I said one of the people in their head, they're going Kip Davis, Josh Bowen, Bart Ehrman. Y'all got like a goddamn PhD in deconstruction, but you won't talk to your family about it. That's what was killing me. You understand what I'm saying to you? So I'm just saying a lot of y'all, all them tactics, all that advice is great, but not if it paralyzes you so you can't even have the conversation. I would much rather you go, I don't really know how to say this, family, but here's where I'm at. And this is just some things I've been meaning to say. That's how I approach it. I got some things I got to get off my chest. I know there's some things I want to hit. I know there's some things I probably want to avoid doing. Okay, I don't want this to devolve into a shouting match. I don't want to not listen when they ask questions. I don't want to curse at them. I don't want to make them feel personally attacked. There was so you do keep those things in mind. But I definitely think people should have the conversation. All right, now let me get to the real plot twist at the end here, y'all. Because there was a real plot twist here. I owe my mom some money because she helped me move here. And it's really tough on me because I feel like my mother's never really been generous with me. I feel like my mother gave up on me a long time ago. And the rest of my family has not understood that, especially my dad, right? My parents are divorced, my parents are good friends, but my dad is always like gassing me up. Like, your mom's going to help you and your grandparents and your mom are going to do this and that and this for you. And then when it comes time for things that I need to actually happen, that help is not as forthcoming as my dad thought it would be, right? Or it's a loan. I'm always getting loans, but I've watched them give tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to the church, right? Because they tithed for years, right? Off the top, right? And so I was like, if you'd have ever helped me one time the way you helped this church that's been lying to you, I would never have had to ask for help the rest of my life. but they're never willing to do that, right? But then any other organization, anybody else in the family that needs help, it's just here, right? And my whole life has been that way. Like my mom should have made enough money to help me go to college. I paid for my college because I got a full scholarship to college. My mother wouldn't help me with living expenses, so I still ended up taking out loans because my mother just thought, you got a scholarship and you're grown. I don't have to help you anymore, right? There's this mythology of how economics work in Black people, y'all, and it literally prevents us from building generational wealth because we're people of one book. We get our faith and our values from this book, and somehow we think that like being good Christians is going to lead to generational blessings. So we squander money and we don't actually do what's needed to like make sure that if you get successful enough that you create potentially life-changing income, that matriculates through the generations in your family the way it needs to build, right? And so she doesn't understand that like I'm dealing with peers in my cohort, especially when you go to people who go to grad school and get advanced degrees and shit like that, that we're behind the 8 ball because I hate to say it, but like a lot of our white peers, like their parents are doing stuff for them that is setting them up, right? Helping them put down payments on homes and cars and setting them up for investments and shit like that. And sure, we could, for a lot of us, we could say your parents can't do that or they don't have it. I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about when your parents do have it and they just don't do those things because they don't. So it's like, it's a disadvantage. There's always been certain things that somebody who makes as much as you made and has the type of resources you have, there's a certain way they're expected to take care of their children, not just when they're growing up, but also throughout their lives. And especially then when they die, that you just don't do for me and you expect it to not hurt. How could it not hurt? Right. And especially because I need it. Like it'd be one thing if I was fine, if I was rolling in dough and making enough, but I'm barely get by paycheck to paycheck. And I literally have my mother breathing down my neck about helping moving fucking expenses. And it's just stressful. But to make a long story short, she basically wanted to talk to me about her end of life stuff. And it turns out she made my cousin power of attorney and more or less wrote me out of her will. If you look into it, like a lot of times your only child, you expect to get the lion's share of your parents' estate, especially when you're the only fucking child. And instead, she is giving me like 20%, and then like she set a little bit of money aside if I have medical needs, like a medical trust. And that's it. Like, and is giving the lion's share of her estate to her husband, or third husband, who she does not have any children with, and he's already retired. And it's like, you know, I have a permanent disability. And I know so many women who like won't even marry when they're at my mom's stage in life in their career because they're going to give their assets and their inheritance and everything to their children. And they're like, yeah, I'm not about to just get married in my fucking 60s and have somebody or they get prenups and all those agreements. So basically she just told me that that she like wrote me out of her will. And then like if something happens to her husband and her husband isn't there to get 80% of the estate, it's going to be split 9 ways between me and all of my cousins.
Jeez.
And I said, you could take every single mother, because these are her brother's kids. So you can take every single one of them. I have like 9 cousins, right? 8 or 9, like blood related cousins, first cousins on my mom's side. And they probably got 7 or 8 baby mothers between them, right? Because it's all just like 1 to 1. I said, you could take every single one of their mothers and put all of their wills together in a pile. There would not be $5 for me. Because of course, my cousin's mom is not gonna fucking leave me money in their goddamn will. But my mother expects, like, I'm supposed to be like, oh, you're giving my inheritance to my cousins? That's so great. And she has my cousin, my oldest cousin, as the power of attorney. And she even starts calling them now like nephew, son, and shit like that. So look, y'all, when I found that shit out, plot twist, I would have spoken up so much fucking sooner. I'm sitting here crying, worried about their feelings, and am I being Socratic enough? And I wish I would have known this bitch wrote me out the way. I sure enough would have spoken up sooner and with a lot more authority. I'm like, I was tripping, y'all, like, oh, I wish I would be worried about their feelings. I wish I would be y'all, if I would have known then what I know now, oh, I would have let it fly, y'all. I would have let it fly. There's no need. There's no need for me to be so cautious. So, y'all, that was like a major plot twist. Your boy wasn't ready for that. But I will tell you, try to get a good note in here. My mother really did ask me, like, why I felt there was distance between us and like what it would take. And I said, you need to not be a Christian.
Well, sounds like that's not the only thing.
And
with this will.
Yeah, well, that's not the only thing. Yeah. Oh, this will business is for real. Yeah, this is for real.
There are a lot of people in my family who have quite a bit of money. I do understand wanting to take care of your spouse. I do. But the money to the cousins, unless you're into the billions, where fractionally there's just so much money to go around that people can just live off of it for the rest of their lives and eat Italian food every day. I just don't get it. Why it's spread it around like that. I haven't, especially when she knows what your needs are. Hey, let's think of it this way. Why not let God take care of them?
Yeah, and again, I understand even the one to take care of your spouse, but to me it should be flipped and then tell me that. Say, Jason, you're my son. I got to make sure you're good. But if like if something should happen to me, and my husband's still around, like I need you to make sure, that's my stepfather. Like, of course, you know what I'm saying? Like you should trust that I will honor and take care of him. And again, I told her, like, I know he get in the house. I know he's already gonna be the direct beneficiary of so many things that he's gonna have absolutely nothing to worry about. So, and I told her, I said flat out, matter of fact, I said, you need to change. I said to her, there is not a child on the face of this planet that would not see what you told me tonight as a huge F you. I said, there's not a child alive that would not see this as a huge double middle finger to me. And I said flat out, and I said, you could put all my cousins' mothers together and there will not be a single dollar for me between them. But of course there wouldn't be. Nobody does this. And I said, and your husband should not have 80%. I said, I'm sorry, he's your third husband. You have no children. He was already retired. He already owns his own home. He already has a lot of assets. No. That is not okay.
If she dies.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I have zero problem with her taking care of him, and I have zero problem if she wanted to leave something behind for my cousins, but not the damn lion's share of the estate, and include me in the process. And I would have volunteered to give a generous portion away to them. I said that's a great idea. Let's do this or that. You see what I'm saying? But I was cut out the entire process. I was not included in anything. And matter of fact, when I really looked at how she did all this, that was the point, right? It was like the way she did it was cutting me out of stuff was the plan, and of course I couldn't be part of the process.
The thing that gets me is you don't have power of attorney. Are you telling me?
Yeah.
Are you looking at? I'm looking at my daughter. She's asleep, kind of, but doing like.
Yeah, Carrie Ann, look on the bright side. At least it wasn't donated to the church. That's facts. That's actually facts, Carrie Ann, because damn it if that's not a possibility. The other thing though is I wanna put a good note out there, because there is something that I was really happy about for me, and it's not everybody. But the reason I brought up the scripture and I brought up the, for man to lie with man is an abomination scripture, as I said, because I've said this on the channel a bunch too, which is, we know how they feel about LGBTQ people, but there's really only a couple of lines about it. There is so much more about the heathen, the blasphemer, and the person who does not believe or honor God. And slavery, yeah. And there's so much. So in other words, what I was saying is, of course, it's a hate group for people who are not believers. And again, they tell us all the time. Every time a Republican gets in front of a mic, what are they talking about? The godless woke left and and the godless future and like, and I was like, you cannot keep asking me to pretend that I don't know this. And she was super butthurt by that. She was like, oh, I can't be part of a group that hates you because I don't hate you. I was like, that's not gonna cut it. I was like, and she said that to me, and I said, you're lying. And then she was like trying to walk out of the room. I was like, and you're trying to walk out of the room on a lie. You're trying to end this conversation on a lie. It's like, that is not true. They are a hate group. And she's like, well, what would you want me to? And I said to her, if I was part of a group that hates black women, would you want me to leave the group? She said, yes. I said, let's go get dinner. Because I kept trying to bring that up and she would not answer the question. And I kept trying to, like, because she kept trying to act, how could you ask me to leave? It's like, you won't accept anything. I was like, you're part of a group that, first off, they're lying. Second of all, they're taking your money. Third of all, I've told you they've traumatized me and abused me throughout my life. And they hate people like me. And you are continuing to try to find every easy way out of this, except obviously, like, it was just this weird thing in her head where she thinks, and most Christians think this, y'all, that they're supposed to be part of this group that can say all these mean and terrible things about us. We deserve to burn in hell. We deserve to be tortured. We deserve to die. We're enemies of God, da, 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 da. And then we're supposed to turn around and treat them like they're parent of the fucking century. Like, and again, a lot of us do. And I'm not here to say my mother hasn't done a lot for me or made those sacrifices for me, but that cannot be weighed on a scale against the intolerance and the injustice of being part of the group that oppresses people like me. I think for a lot of us, we have to claim that for ourselves. We have to say, I know you loved me. I know you raised me the best you can. I know you made a lot of sacrifices for me, but that does not excuse all of these things that hurt me. And it definitely doesn't excuse all of these things that are currently hurting me, and you won't do anything about it. So that's what happened, y'all. Carrie Ann, I appreciate you. You're one of my favorite people in the world, Karen. I love y'all. Look, y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. I couldn't have done this without y'all. I got to this place in my life because of this community, and I'm still trying to work through it. But, I didn't feel like I could keep facing y'all and encouraging people to really fight back against religion if I wasn't willing to have a conversation with my own family. I felt like I would have been too much of a hypocrite. And like I keep telling y'all that we need to do this. And so I had to do it myself. So I felt encouraged by y'all and emboldened by y'all, and ultimately did what I had to do to be consistent with the values that I feel like we have as a community. And so I just want to thank y'all and let y'all know I really do love y'all, and I appreciate y'all for being part of my journey. All right, my one black friend, I'm gonna let you get in here and tell people what you're thinking. And
sure.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, no worries. Well, as a new parent, there's a lot for me to learn from this conversation. I have to think about not just my future, but her future beyond me, and I've done that certainly. Just for those that don't know in our audience, I'm 52 years old, and I just had my first child at 52 years old. So this isn't my grandbaby. This is my baby. So she has yet to make me feel old, other than when I'm trying to get her to sleep and I have to go up and down stairs because it sort of soothes her to sleep. And I actually did that during this podcast, so forgive me. But there are going to be a lot of things. She just opened her eyes. There are going to be a lot of things to talk about. I might as well say this to you. There are going to be a lot of things to talk about that I might not necessarily like hearing or saying to you. So I'll do my best. I'll do my best. And I think, as you know, Pocket Locker, I'm sort of, for the most part, I'm pretty mild mannered. And I care a lot about other people's feelings because I was somebody who was quite stepped on early on in life, and that felt awful. And I don't want anybody to feel that way unless they're trying to make me feel that way. Then their destruction verbally will be my delight. You know, it'll be my great pleasure to hand them the pain they asked for. That's very rare. It mostly lives on Instagram and Facebook and, the comments section. What I find, I think it's unfortunate that your mother chose to to be so inclusive of your cousins at a level that almost shows a preference of them over you. And you're getting the consolation prize.
Definitely.
I have to give you something. You're my child.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I couldn't have said it any better. Exactly.
It may not be something she noticed. I was very watchful of what my parents did as a child. And I would point things out to them, and it was like they were ignoring the fact that I noticed. You don't know it. What do you're too young.
Yes.
When you get older, you'll understand. I stood there and understood right there in that moment, which is why I'm a very independent person. But I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have started out that way, but I did. I don't think it was a healthy thing to start out that way, but I did. It was survival. I had to. And as a result of that, I did things a child is not supposed to do. And I was lucky that I had people who were other kids who helped me hide some of the stuff that I did, because they were doing it too. But, I certainly don't want those sorts of things for my child. I want her not to have stuff she probably shouldn't publicly speak about, in her life. I do think that is a good thing that you ultimately had a conversation with them and you told them, hey, here's how I see the Bible. Here's how I see the God of the Bible. The most important distinction is they are neither of those things. They are neither the God of the Bible nor the Bible itself. Your
Yeah.
mother and even your grandparents have the ability, and since your mother's husband was there, they have the ability to not only reason beyond what is in those pages that is utter nonsense or terrifying wrongheadedness, but they have the ability to make good decisions, good sound decisions that are loving and nurturing and look towards the future and not just crap all over people. I recently posted something on Facebook from Deuteronomy that spoke about how to take care of the poor, the orphans, and the immigrants that live among you. I'm fairly convinced this was not something that was widely preached during the 2024 presidential campaign. It's not something that will be widely preached next year either. I think we as non-believers have to have an understanding of believers, not with believers. That would be lovely. And you try to do that. You try to have an understanding with believers. That's hard won, Pocket Locker. But the understanding of believers is that many of them did not read the Bible. They do not know what's in there. They do not understand it. They do not understand how and where it contradicts itself. They do not understand how their own morals are superior to what they have been reading to what they did not read in the Bible. A minister will go up in front of a congregation and make it all sound sweet, except for the hellfire and brimstone part. But the hellfire and brimstone part is not meant for the people in the church. It's meant for the people who want to leave. This just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. My uncle passed away last year. He was heavily involved in the church. He had a lot of health problems. People were praying for him. My family has like a prayer line. You know, like this is a real thing. It's staffed and everything. So people were praying for him. But he died. He died.
Wow.
And I think I'm one of two. My aunt's sort of agnostic with a slight bent towards there's something to the universe, right? She believes in a force or some
there's
shit like that. Yeah, I got
yeah.
my baby. My baby's heard me use every curse word under the sun. But anyway, yeah. So I am the village atheist. I'm the family atheist. Okay, out of hundreds of people, I'm the lone atheist in the bunch, as far as I know. But I sat there on a phone call with my cousin, you know, because her dad passed away. She was not in a position to financially afford like the $3,600 funeral or whatever it was. And I've mentioned this on Hot Program before. On that call were like 6 people who were millionaires in my family. We had to have a discussion about how to help her out and bury our uncle.
Wow.
Why? My cousin's husband called me. He goes, "Can you go look at a car for me? I'm in California." It was an $80,000 Bentley. Now we're having a conversation about a $3,000 funeral. He wants me to go look at an $80,000 Bentley and make sure it's in good condition because he wants to give himself a gift. He will make $3,000 today, but they couldn't pay for the funeral. My cousin, she will make $3,000 in the next 2 days. They couldn't pay for his funeral. I can just go on and on.
It's crazy.
And yeah, these are Christian folk. Okay. These are Christian folk having a real hard time trying to just say, look, let's just do this easy. Let's just give $500 a piece, and that'll leave money left over for things you're not even thinking about that could come up. And keep the rest. Because if you can't afford to bury your own father with, $3,600, if you can't afford to do it, you might need some help too. So let's just all do that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is a lot of. That's the one thing I didn't say to my mom, which is so true. Which is like, if you can't help me out with the things I've needed help with, you lied to me my entire life about money. You lied to me about how much you made. You lied about how much you saved. You lied about your investments. You lied about putting enough aside to make sure. I mean, like, and I didn't say that, but that's the truth. Like, just in that moment, it was like there. And I don't think she did lie. I think,
No, it's
like
hers.
your
It's
people,
theirs.
it's
No,
just
it's
hard. It's
theirs.
theirs,
It's
and it's yeah,
theirs.
yeah,
I'm
exactly,
sorry.
yeah.
I have an uncle who runs a church. Okay, he's a minister, but he's a minister of this little church where I'm sure he's financed that church its entire existence. And it wouldn't, if he stepped down as pastor, it would disappear the next day. That building would be for sale the next day.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Some of my
because
grandparents were at their
I
church.
went to see him preach as an atheist because I love him. I can't get enough of being around him. I went to see him preach. I put $40 in the collection plate, and one of the female ushers there, or whatever her position was, says, "Honey, do you want some change?" That tells me that's where people in that church are.
Wow.
They can put 40 in, but doggone it, they're hoping to get another 10 back. So I'm like, can I get 10 back? I can get some gas on the way home.
Right.
The place where gas is $2.39 a gallon. So that's something to keep in mind, that the Christian message isn't only the New Testament. The Christian message is often bedazzled, if you will, further by the individual's own hopes, dreams, and desires. They will tell us gleefully in some cases that God plays a part, right? The seen hidden hand of God, you see it in what occurs, and yet God never wakes you up in the morning, taps you on your shoulder and says, "Sweetheart, today we're doing this. And we're doing this for you.
Right.
And here's how I need you to bless other people today. But here's how I'm going to bless you. And I want you to see it, feel it, and know it. And I want you to be a little overcome by how wonderful it all is." That would be fantastic. During this podcast, my daughter needed her diaper change. There's a set of behaviors that she's now doing that are different than what I'm used to when it's time for a certain kind of diaper change. Okay. But when I'm doing that for her, when I'm changing her diaper, it doesn't matter how tired she is, she's so excited. She's doing all this stuff, giggling, because she's so excited. Why? Because she knows she's dirty and I'm making her clean. The gospel message, when preached in a lively way in a church setting, can make Christians feel like my daughter. And God good,
Yeah.
and God good. They can feel that way because mentally it's doing that for them. It's lifting a weight off of them. They leave, if they're lucky, feeling clean. If they're even luckier, they come in the door feeling that way. But a lot of them don't. The church is therapy. The church is a way to cope with the hardships of life. And if someone is like, I'm going to use Chris Pine as an example. The guy's a multimillionaire. He's got a fabulous career as an actor. No doubt, if he wants to travel to Greece or Spain or you name it, Fiji, he could just up and do it as long as he's got a valid passport. He's got the dough. If he wants to buy a new car, be it a Hyundai, a Kia, or a Toyota, or a Ferrari, he's got the dough. He can just go do it. If he didn't have health insurance and one of his children, if he has children, got sick, he can just go to a doctor. It's easy for him, right? That's not everybody. So we can, the poorest among Christians, and we atheists can look at that guy, we see what's going on. Well, he's got the means. to do all these things. There are people, even though he's rich, will give him things for free.
Yes.
They'll charge you and me to get in the
course.
club, but he can come in for free. I used to be a doorman.
Right.
And my boss told me, if you see a celebrity, let him in for free. I'm like, but they have money. Don't they have? And this was a really popular bar. So we had, you could pretty much count on it. There's somebody famous is going to show up. You can pretty much count on, you know, I'm working on Friday, Saturday, or Thursday. I'm going to see somebody famous. So the idea that they have is that God is in control. God is managing things. How that works is that God is solving problems, not creating them. If you read the whole Bible, you will see it's clear that God is creating the problems too.
Absolutely.
And along comes some priest who goes, whoa, 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 whoa. People can see God in a bad light. So let's create another character, a second fictional character. Well, not a second one. There's many. But let's create an additional fictional character that can take the blame for what goes wrong.
Exactly.
Now we have Satan can get blamed for this and that. When we discuss the atrocities in the Bible that the God of the Bible takes credit for with a Christian, we often will hear the expression, God's ways are higher than ours. They've already been programmed to say this. This is something that's widely preached. And it just like Pascal's wager, it comes up as a reflex.
Right.
There's no, it's almost like you could have, maybe we should do this, right? We should make a list of 10 replies, 10 frequent Christian replies, and have it in our pocket and as a business card and hand it to them. Like, I already knew when you spoke to me about God, you were going to say these things, guaranteed. When I brought up, these were going to be your answers. Does that mean you're thinking for yourself, or does that mean you were told what to think? They've been told what to think. They've been told how to respond. I'm sure many of you have your frustrations with AI voice prompts when you call a business or a government office and you want to talk to an individual. It's like individuals don't work at those places anymore with some of those automated response things. Like, I keep hitting 0 because I want to talk to an operator. And it's like, no, we don't do that here. You have to talk to the AI. Well, AI, I keep asking for a customer service rep and you won't give me one. That's right. So I'm going to hang up on you. Okay, I'll see you there. Are you sure it's not 11? Huh? Are you sure it's not 11? Yeah, it's at 11. Okay, sorry. My wife.
No, you're good. Oh, tell her I said hi. Tell her I said hi.
He says hi.
All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap this thing up.
But let me just say a little something else for our audience. If any of you have to do what Pocket Locker has done, I didn't say to my family that Christianity is an evil lie. My approach was far different because I was asked, why I didn't believe anymore. And I simply explained that my values far exceed the values of the God of the Bible. And here's why. Here's why. So what that stopped was someone saying, where do you get your morals from? It's like, I've already outclassed the Hebrew God. I'm way ahead of them. I'm way ahead.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great.
Think in your mind that I'm not. And the only reason a person can think that way is because they don't know that biblical text like I do. Just because he's allegedly got the job doesn't mean he's competent to do it.
Yeah, and that was the number one thing. Like, my mom was asking me what I think she should do. I said, you need to read the Bible. And I was like, I don't think you read it. And then she got mad. She was like, I'm not going to go there. I was like, no, have you read the Bible? She's like, of course I read the Bible. I read the Bible every day. Okay. Is it devotional? I just said, I read the Bible every day. Is it devotional? Because the devotional doesn't count. Yes, it's a devotional. Okay, well, devotional doesn't count because they're telling you which parts of the Bible to read. They're not telling you what to avoid. And how and what to think about it. Yeah, and I was like, you need to get a serious academic study Bible, and you need to read it from beginning to end for yourself in your own critical thinking mind. So that's it, man. We encouraging them to do the right things. It's just, hey,
this, I'll take a page out of the Christianity. I'll take a page from their book, so to speak. Literally, go to Ezekiel 20. If they ask you why you don't believe, I want you to read Ezekiel 20 first, the whole chapter. And when you do, I'm not even going to tell you what's in there. When you do, you realize this is all you need to know. It's all you need to know to shut them down. Like, and have them read it in front of you. Just read this in front of me. And then if they're willing, because I had somebody who literally would not read it. They would not do it. All you need to know right there. Once they read it, you can ask, how do you respond to this? The Bible has many instances like what we read in Ezekiel 20, showing the character of its God. How do you respond to this? His ways are higher than ours might be one of the answers. Then you can go to the part that you know I'm referring to. In what way does this exceed general human reason? In what way? They may have an answer. They may not have an answer. But now, at least they understand you've picked something that is so horrifying, so outrageous, and it credits the God of the Bible with a particular behavior. Your work is done. Your work is done. You can then go on to say, I'm going to love you. I'm going to love you. Regardless of what the rest of this book says about anything else, I'm going to love you because that's what I do. That's who I am. This book does not define me. I don't believe it defines you. And if you told me it did, I'm going to love you anyway. But there's a lot of things in here I don't agree with. That's a reflection of one. That's a good representative sample of one.
That's powerful. No, that's really good. All right, gang. I love y'all. Be encouraged. We out here, and maybe some other people will have conversations with family, friends, coworkers, whoever they think, is important to reach and at least be understood. If nothing else, I think you create a space for you to be understood better. And hopefully that improves your sense of autonomy, self-sufficiency. I'm at least capable of speaking my mind and advocating for myself.
Absolutely, you must. Because you often won't have a representative there to do it for you.
Absolutely. All right, gang, be good to yourselves.
Thanks for all the baby compliments.
Yeah, and thanks for all the